I'm so happy to be today with Brie. She is a content marketing coach for ambitious, intuitive female entrepreneurs, and I love her so much because on in the online space, she really has like a genuine energy that you can feel through the screen. That she really is here to change the online world through her work. She focuses on helping women gain more clarity and consistency and confidence in their content. So this is a really interesting topic for my podcast. It's the first time when I'm bringing a marketing expert and a content expert. So I'm really curious how that influence our money making in our businesses, and how we write and how we translate our personalities through writing can influence the success of our business. So welcome, Brie. I'm so happy that you're here. How are you feeling today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat all things like feminine entrepreneurship with you.
Cool. Me as well. So tell me first, the first question that I love to ask is what is your money story? What are the beliefs that you inherited, maybe how it was for you growing up, and how it was to have a business and to work with your money mindset in your business? I know it's a lot of questions, but like the theme is what's your money story, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the Midwest in America, like very humble upbringing. And, I think from a young age, it was conditioned into me that you have to really work hard for money. And that even when you do work hard, it's not always abundant, right? That it can still run out, that even when you do work hard, things can still be scarce. Um, and that was definitely a story that I carried into my adult life, as I started to make money myself, after university and going into the corporate world. It was very much like a hustle mentality of having to work hard for my money. And I think another theme that came through is like almost an expectation that I wasn't meant to love what I do, like that it was not
Mm.
only, I had to work hard for it, but that it wasn't necessarily going to be something that I enjoyed. And so I did that for like 5 or 6 years, right? Like I worked at numerous media companies and startups in Los Angeles, and worked my butt off, and got to a point where, well, one, the narrative continued that like I always had enough to get by, but it wasn't like I was, in my 20s, like in an abundance of income. There was always, I somehow found a way for it to always feel scarce and tight, like with my spending. And on top of that, I really did not enjoy what I was doing. And that's kind of what led me to want to start a business, was realizing like, wait a second, if I need to work to support myself for at least, another 40 years or something, I want to do something that I actually love. And I know that what I'm doing right now is not it. I don't feel like I'm making a difference in the world. And like, is there a way to make money and actually do something that I enjoy and that actually feels like it's making a positive impact on the planet? And so I searched for that for a really long time. And it was my own spiritual journey and healing journey that led me to the coaching space of working with a coach on my own, and then realizing like, wow, I think I would really like to do this work full time and help other people. But it's interesting with the money story stuff, how much of it I carried into my entrepreneurial journey, because as I'm sure you can attest, like starting a business, no one tells you this. It is like the deepest shadow work that you can
Mhm.
possibly do when you, especially with an online business, especially with a personal brand, and really realizing like, okay, I have this calling on my heart. I have this desire and this vision for my life and the business that I want to create and the impact that I want to create. But oh my God, wait, I have to like market myself. I have to sell myself. I have to be solely responsible for providing for myself and making money, because there's almost like this level of I don't know what the right word is. Like when you're working for a job, you don't feel as much pressure because you just go through the motions and you get the paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you work for yourself, it's not like that. There's like this new level of pressure, especially in the very beginning of like shit just gets real really fast and all of your stuff comes up. And, looking back, I really feel like the beginning of my business was gridded in a lot of scarcity, a lot of fear, a lot of pressure to make things work and need to force things to happen. And a lot of my money stuff came up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I could go back, I might start my business in a different way, just in the sense that, I'd worked for a string of startups, and sometimes startup life is unstable. And as I was in the process of getting my coaching certifications and starting to take those first steps of like getting ready to start a business, which in the beginning you think is like, I need to build a website. I can't do anything till I do that, which now I know
Yeah.
is like totally not true. But I ended up getting laid off of my job. And I took that as a sign from the universe of like, okay, it's time to launch my business. I'm going to go into my business. I'm not going to go get another job. I'm going to launch my business. And that created a lot of anxiety with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really was dysregulating to my nervous system in hindsight to try to start a business like that with no financial support beyond like the little bit that I like had in savings and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it really like kicked off my business from a place of like scarcity. And so in the process of growing my business and, continuing to spend more time in the online space, I've had to like unlearn a lot of that conditioning that I started off with.
Love this.
And sometimes I think you hear people in the online world being like, you got to jump in and commit and give it your all. And just like, if you jump in with no plan B, like you're forced to figure it out. And I don't think that I agree with that based on my own experience. And, what I tell, I've told past clients that have been starting businesses, and most of the women I work with now already have businesses. But for women who are just starting out, like, I don't recommend you just get up and quit your job.
Yeah. I
Like
I feel the
really,
same now.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it puts so much pressure on. And, in the process of growing a business, I've picked up various part-time jobs. It looked different pre 2020 when there wasn't as much remote work, like stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that where I stand now is like the entrepreneurial journey is different for everyone because there's a lot of healing stuff that needs to come up along the way. There's a lot of deconditioning and stories, and especially with money, especially with self-worth, that comes up when you start a business. And so to have that extra pressure on it, that all the money to support your life needs to come through your business right away is a lot. And it's what I've realized is that like nervous system regulation is like one of the most important things with
Mm-hmm.
having a business.
So,
And so if you can have like a side job or something to support
mm-hmm.
yourself and bring yourself a level of safety where you're not like, it has to work right now. Like I need to pay my rent,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Creating
I
that level of
agree.
safety for yourself outside of your business, I think is going to bring a level of safety into your business is
Mm-hmm.
the point. Yeah.
Yes, yes. You are like a baby when you're opening a business. You don't know anything. You're like so vulnerable to everything you see on the internet with all the advice, and it really puts a lot of pressure to quit a job, not have a plan,
Mhm.
having some funds in a bank account and hoping to God that they will, you'll manage to have clients until those funds are finished. And it was the same for me in the beginning. Like, um, I was in the manifestation field right then, and I was like really working every day to manifest clients and not having a strategy. And I was like, now looking back, like I wonder how did I have clients, because I only had
Mm.
Instagram. I was posting like every other day. I didn't have the strategy. I didn't have a program or anything. But as you say, like it's indeed like a healing journey. The business journey, it's a healing journey indeed. And what healing did you need to do around money? You said something about nervous system healing. Like, what tools did you use to work with that conditioning around scarcity and the anxiety you had when you started your business?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's always new layers of healing that come up for us with every phase of our journey. We discover new things. So there's been a lot
Mm-hmm.
of mindset work that I've had to do. With like receiving money particularly
Mm-hmm.
was the big one for me. I really have, I think my main focus with money has been like, how do I detach my sense of self-worth and value
Mm-hmm.
from my bank account?
Yes,
You know,
love
and that's
that.
like we're conditioned for, like that we're only valuable if we're being productive or if we have a certain amount of money. I had to like separate those. um and of course the universe has brought me some interesting experiences on my business journey that have helped me to really have to look at those things and integrate them. Even a story that came up for me earlier this year, an old story that I finally realized, was that I realized I was holding back in my business in how much I was like fully expressing myself and what I saw as like I was capable of doing, because there was a pattern that had happened in my business where like anytime I would gain momentum and I would like sign a bunch of clients or like have a big cash injection, something bad would happen in my life after. And you know, like it was, I had a sexual assault experience early in my business. And then, you know, my dad got sick in 2020 and I had to like pause and help my family out. But these experiences, I realized I was like associating with the money and with the momentum. So then last year in 2021, I realized, wow, I feel like I'm actually, well, I didn't realize it until the beginning of this year, but I looked back and I was like, 2021, I really was holding back because I'd been through like a couple years of just crazy stuff that I was somehow associating with the momentum and the money that I was receiving, then something bad would happen. And so I was like subconsciously holding back because I was afraid that it was going to happen again. And so this year, once I realized that story, it was like a huge weight was lifted because I finally saw this pattern that I hadn't been able to see. And so the beginning of this year, I was it's been a full what is it, June? It's been a full 6 months of like deep embodiment work and really focusing on my own embodiment and my nervous system regulation as the honestly the main focus in my business. And something that has really helped me is realizing that we get to stretch ourselves in our embodiment in order to hold more, in order to attract more, um, in order to be more in our level of impact, like just business growth overall. That requires us to continue to expand, right? To meet new edges and continue to grow. And what started happening organically for me was I was in Costa Rica at the beginning of this year and I was learning how to surf. And this was something that brought up a lot of fear in me. Like I had a fear of open water and just being out there felt really scary a lot. And it was really hard. This was like a big challenge. And so I wanted to learn how to do it because I wanted to prove to myself that I could get over this fear. And there were so many times that I was ready to quit, but I had to have a pep talk with myself and realize, like, Brie, this is an analogy for entrepreneurship. Like, this feels really scary. These waves are crashing you and crushing you. Like, you need to learn how to do this because the type of woman that you will be when you learn how to do this is the type of woman that can hold the level of business that you want to be able to hold. And so it was realizing that when I stretch myself in fear, like stretch myself to new edges, it calls on a new level of courage within me. And if I can do something scary, like learning how to surf, it makes a lot of other stuff like that I would normally maybe in the past had shied away from in my business feel a lot less scary. So it like brings this level of like, I'm unstoppable and I can do hard things into my embodiment. On the other side of that spectrum, I also started doing things to stretch myself in pleasure and allow
Mm.
myself to just be in like play and enjoyment and just presence, to allow myself to feel new levels of bliss that maybe I hadn't allowed myself to before because I needed to work, right? Or I was
Mm-hmm.
busy with something. And so that felt edgy as well in a different way of like, oh, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to celebrate at this level? Am I allowed to relax at this level?
Mm-hmm.
And so having those like honestly did something to how I was showing up, the presence that I was showing up with. It did something to train my nervous system to hold more. And it's interesting because with that, I then started to see it reflected in the income in my business and what was coming in. It felt like a mirroring for the stretching that I was doing.
Mm-hmm. I love this. I do embodiment practices every morning. Like before, I used to do meditation, but as you probably notice, whenever we have a lot of things like going on, or maybe sometimes we experience anxiety, because we have things going on in our life, in our business. And if I noticed if I was meditating, then I was really agitated and I couldn't stay focused and I was blaming myself. So it was a negative cycle I was in. So I started working with the body and doing embodiment sessions as you did, and working with different international teachers and learning different practices, because embodiment is such a huge area. You can work with different modalities. And I discovered that moving my body in the morning and moving all that energy feels so good for my nervous system, because I release all the thoughts, all the agitation, and I can have like a free space in my mind and in my body for the rest of the day to really focus and be creative and be in my feminine, because I released all that stuckness. So I love that we had similar techniques. And I would love for you to tell me a little bit more about a subject that I'm really passionate about. And we were talking a little bit before about your work around authenticity and how you're like helping your clients to translate their personalities in their content and to feel that genuine energy through the screen. How are you doing that? It's such an amazing topic for me right now.
Yeah, me too. I'm very passionate about this because you know what I've realized with being in the online space is content, and it being like the year 2022, content is the life force of our business. If you have an online business, like it is simply part of the game. Like if you want to grow your business, if you want to reach people all over the world, you have to be creating content. And I think for some people that can feel like a hassle or a time suck. It can feel like something that they're afraid of doing. They might want to outsource it. But I really firmly believe that this is some of the inner work that we get to do. We get to notice like what is the resistance, what are the feelings and beliefs that we have around creating content, around growing a personal brand that need to shift, and allowing yourself to like start to view yourself as a creator, right? Like you're not
Mhm.
just a business owner that has to market their business. Like you're a creator that gets to create because they have a business, right? So how can your content be your art? How can your content be like a gallery that somebody can come to, a library of all of your thoughts and your feelings and your values and your personal stories and your client success stories and like all of this stuff? that they can then come and receive all of that energy and like plug into you through your content and get an experience of like what it's like to work with you and what you stand for through how you express yourself online. Ooh, sorry, that was my phone sliding off. How you express yourself online. And, you know, beyond that, like, what level of expression do you want to bring online? What does that look like? And I think the longer we're in business, the longer we are creating, the deeper we go with that, the more layers that get to be pulled back. And there's always these new edges that we get to meet in how we're being called to express ourselves. So what I help my clients with is we get really clear on their messaging in the beginning, because if you're not clear on your messaging, everything else is going to just feel really difficult and confusing. And when stuff feels difficult and confusing, you really lose your sense of confidence and direction, right? So we get really clear on your messaging in the beginning. And when I speak to messaging, it's like, what is your unique genius that you have to bring to the world? And who do you want to serve with that genius? And then how are you going to help them do that, right? So, because you could help anybody in the world with what you have to offer. We all have unique gifts and you can help anybody with them, but who do you want to serve? Who would it turn you on to serve with those gifts? You know, and then from that place, we get to start playing with your content and your strategy, right? Because marketing strategy, content strategy gets to be different for every single one of us. There's no cookie cutter way to do it that's going to work for everybody. And I think that's where a lot of women get overwhelmed, is like feeling like there's so many strategies out there. There's so much noise, people telling them, you know, you need to do it this way, you need to do it this way. It's like, no, what is going to feel most sustainable for your energy, for your lifestyle, and is supportive of your values, right? We're all in different situations. I have clients who are moms. I have clients who own other businesses, like own multiple businesses. So not everybody has time to be creating all day, every day, nor should you have to. Like, you know, there's a lot of like marketing growth experts out there that say like, you need to be like creating all these pieces of content every, like 5 pieces of content a day and all of this. Like, that's not realistic for a lot of people. Yeah. So it's like combining this masculine and feminine energy to and using your own intuition and knowing who you are and your energy to like be like, what is going to work for me? What feels like it's sustainable for me, but would also excite me and turn me on, right? Like, maybe it's going live. Maybe it's creating a couple reels each week. Maybe it's taking an email once a week and sending that out and then breaking that email into a couple pieces of content. Like, there's a way to do things that work for your goals and your current situation, that also allow you to express yourself.
Oh my God, so many. I love the question so much. Like, you made me think. And I remember like one of the core things I resonate the most from what you said is the clarity and the confidence. Like in the beginning, when I started my business, I was just a hypnotherapist. Like I didn't have a niche. I didn't have a direction. And I was like talking to everyone, you know, and no one was buying. And I was like, some days I was talking about hypnosis, some days about my mood, some days about healing in general. And I felt so disempowered because I didn't have a plan and I wasn't clear. I didn't have a clear mind around my messaging. But in time, like working with mentors, as you said, and niching down more and more, finding a strategy, finding my voice, it really helped me to build my confidence in the online space. And that's what it actually felt through the photos, through the videos, that journey of you with yourself on getting your power back and being sure what you're saying and what's your strategy and who you're talking with. So I feel like your work, it's so amazing. And I love that you're combining also like strategy and content and marketing and business guidance. It's amazing. Congrats for everything you're doing. I'm really curious about how a session with you look like. And tell me what you're currently working on in your life for our listeners to know how they can work with you.
Yeah, of course. So I work with women one-on-one um, in a very like masculine and feminine balanced experience. It's called Marketing Muse, where, like I said, we get clear on your messaging. We dive into the messaging, really, the messaging piece is really to help you create the clarity. We also want to start creating consistency in how you are showing up, knowing that like consistency is how you grow over time, right? That's what's going to create that compound effect, is continuing to show up. So that's where the content piece comes in, and getting clear on your content strategy and how you want to create in a way that feels really good for you. And then we also do a lot of embodiment work, right? A lot of mindset stuff, because the other piece that you spoke about is the confidence piece. Because like if we're not feeling confident in our offers and our message and our content, like people are going to feel that. And so that confidence piece starts with your embodiment of you really allowing yourself to show up as your authentic self, sharing your authority and your gifts and your genius on the one side, but also not being afraid to like share your vulnerability and maybe some of your shadows or your quirks or the things that like people don't know about you. Finding that balance between those, I think, is how we really show up as like somebody who feels magnetic, because they feel like somebody that can help us, but they also feel like somebody that we can relate to and that like sees us and hears us. And that's what you want as a leader in the online space, is to be an authority, but to also still be a human, you know,
Mhm.
and be the most unique expression of yourself, because those are the bits that people feel and are attracted to, or maybe aren't attracted to. And so they know like you're not their person, right? And
Mhm.
that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Is to for somebody to like be weeded out, right? Or to be
Yeah.
immediately drawn to you. That's what we want. So those are the really big pieces that I work with clients, with the goal being that like them getting clear on all of these pieces and showing up consistently and with confidence is what is going to bring in not only clients, but like the soulmate clients, and start to
Mm.
create the consistent income in their business, because they are simply being themselves and sharing it on the internet, like taking your gifts and serving the people with who you are. So that's what I do with clients one-on-one. I do have a summer masterclass series that I am getting ready to launch and share over the next 2 months. So it's going to be, I'm basically taking all the work that I do with my one-on-one clients and I'm breaking it up into a series of 5
Oh,
different masterclasses for
cool.
people to experience everything from your messaging to, you know, creating captivating content to, you know, working with embodiment and like learning to become your own muse with how you show up online. So that is going to be launching very soon. So I'll definitely be sharing more about that in my space.
Wow, Marketing Muse is such a cool name. I can feel that from the name, how good you're at content from from only the name. I love it,
Oh,
and I love the work that you're doing. I'm sure that you will have a huge impact on the world through your amazing work. And thank you so much for being with you today. Thank you to everyone for listening to us, and see you on the next episode. Bye.